that. And I think that realistically, the way they've kind of come through those roster changes and continued to push into what is now an even better team than what was last season, yeah, it's one of those things that I think it's definitely, you got to take your hat off to it and congratulate them on that.
I wanted to pose a question, and probably to you two other Aussies that I'm not used to working with, both Raven and Matic at each corner of the screen. When Fnatic left, sort of zoom themselves further up north, not be the down under team anymore that sort of usually reigns supreme, do you think that Wildcard sort of took their place, and as a result, therefore Pittsburgh took Wildcard's place at biting at the ankles, and they've kind of sort of been promoted to these 1-2 kind of step left and right? Maybe Raven, you'll be able to answer this for me.
Yeah, look, I think that's pretty much exactly what happened. When Fnatic left, Wildcard certainly saw that as an opportunity to cement themselves at the top. And of course, that excited the rest of the region because they're like, well, usually the top two are the ones that are qualifying for things. Now's our chance to cement ourselves in second. And the Knights took that challenge on, and they have just brought it home. They have really cemented themselves in second place. It's without a doubt, in my mind at least, that they would be considered stronger than Okami, and the results have shown that. And just the way these players have presented themselves, if you look at stats, they've had players finishing in the top 5 in the stats leaderboard for a lot of categories. So they have just excelled their gameplay, they've focused on their craft, and that's what's beautiful about them is they have their own playstyle that they do really well at. It doesn't seem like they try to change that to other teams, they just try to excel at their thing.
It's been an amazing journey for Knights because you mentioned that often the top 2 from Oceania qualify for in the past the APAC lands, etc. Things have completely changed, right? Like Knights never once qualified for any of those. Like none of these players have played on LAN with the exception of that local Six Masters LAN we had last year in 2019. So it's been a massive change for all of these players, really elevating themselves to that next level. And what's more, the fact that, as you mentioned, Manic, they lost arguably 2 of the best players at Oceania, Styx, who went on to Fnatic, and Strider, who retired. And the fact that they bounced back, became a better team than ever out of all that is truly amazing.
Okay, well, the number 1 team then, I guess, it leaves us to go back at the top. Wildcard, right? They've been in the top for a while. You guys said even from the transition to old APAC system into the new one with these split regions that we have, Fnatic away, Wildcard take their spot. Why do you think they're consistently in that number 1 position?
I think they've just been so hungry for it because while Fnatic was here, they were the ones living in Fnatic's shadow. It was always, can Wildcard really live up to Fnatic standards? Can they beat Fnatic? And with them out of the way, I think that just only increased their hunger to stay dominant and stay at the top. And they went through some roster changes. They did lose Derpe and Neo after 6 Invitational earlier this year, but they brought on some really solid additions. And I'm sure everyone's going to see that tonight, even just the difference between August and November. They've replaced Ethan with Vincia, who's a very strong upcoming player in our region. Just the way they've built things and designed their team play and play style, it works so well for them to excel their results.
Yeah, just to add on from those roster changes, it is one of those things that we're seeing so often in the OS region. You know, like a lot of players are kind of moving in, moving out, and teams are constantly shuffling. But I think for Wildcard, I will speak to the coach, obviously, of Silex and Flux that have kind of maintained on that roster. Now, look, I know that they do put a fair bit of work in the background, but it's definitely, for me, a highlighted fact for Wildcard and the way that they're able to continue to progress with these changes. The fact that they've only dropped, I believe it's 3 maps since the start of Six Masters, which was OCN Stage 1, is just absolutely bonkers.
I wanted to point out a couple of the players. I'd seen some really, really good replays from a player called Gio, and obviously I'm not too familiar with that player, but you're all nodding there going, oh, I mean, the Australian
the
one.
Mexican one. The Mexican one, right?
God, it's so confusing.
The other one, the third one, or the second, I don't know who's
How good is this woman?
The second or the third. It doesn't really matter, but different spelling. So at least he's got that going for him. I've seen so many awesome replays, and it's not often that a replay from down under reaches all the way up to the tippy top of Europe, and everyone's going, hey, look at this dude and look what he did all the way down in Australia. That was awesome. But I think to myself, when they lost Ethan, and maybe I overvalued Ethan and his capabilities as a singular player or how he meshed with the roster, but I thought it was such a huge blow to them and the way that they'd be able to maintain their consistency. Surprisingly, I mean, they got a good replacement. Things didn't work out too bad for them, but I did worry for them when I did hear about Ethan. Everyone heard about it on Twitter, and I went, how big of a hit is it? Can they stay afloat? Managed to do it, but I mean, that's a sweat moment, I think.
I don't think you can possibly overvalue Ethan. He was just
Yeah.
the